Yeah, the question is, there's still ice on the road. What are we doing as a city to address that, especially when we've got more weather coming Friday night? Our Department of Public Works continues to be activated, and I don't have all of the recent details on this. There's been another side of the house that has been focusing on that. Tracy, I don't know if you have anything to offer. If not, we can see if we can have somebody from DPW pop up here and answer that question just about just salting, sanding. What are our plans for ice that's on the road now? Yeah.
Yep, I'll defer
Well,
to
okay,
Bobby.
okay, great.
Hi, Danny.
Hey, Melissa.
Thank you for answering our questions. I wanted to ask you about the generators at the water treatment plant. My understanding from Julian is that those have to be manually powered on. So what I'm trying to figure out is, why was the system designed that way? When were those powered on by somebody? Was there a delay in those being powered on that could have led to this catastrophe that we're now experiencing? And was anybody actually at the plant when this all went down to manually turn those off?
Yeah. I've heard some discussion about this, and again, I'm just as interested in figuring out exactly what the sequence of events is. We have taken some initial steps. Yesterday, I talked about the fact that we're committed to doing a really rigorous and transparent after-action process to figure out what was the sequence of events, how did we get here, and then how do we prevent this from happening in the future. We've made some initial calls to groups who would come in and do investigations. We want to really do that in partnership with our regional partners and our city council to make sure that everybody is in agreement about who's doing the investigation, how they're going to do the investigation. And so I expect in the coming days we'll have a lot more clarity once those questions start being asked and looked at, what was the sequence of events. I don't have the answers now, but please know, I am as or more interested than anybody about how we make sure that this doesn't happen in the future.
Can you commit right now to us, to the public, that you will tell us the exact sequence of events and what potentially went wrong?
Absolutely. In our after-action report, that will be part of the investigation. It'll be laid out, and that'll be a public document.
Have you been able to ask Ms. Bingham about it? Has she shared any of that information with you yet?
Not with me. We have not. Again, we've been so focused on just getting the operation up and running, and then also, running through all the steps that I talked about before, and like reviewing our protocols and making sure that our staffing plan looks different, and that we're, ramping up inspections. So I think that, again, we'll have a lot more clarity in the days to come. But right now, job number one is get the boiled water advisory lifted and then prepare for any potential weather event coming ahead of us in the next couple of days.
And you'll have somebody there to, if the power goes out again, manually turn on the generators for this next weather event?
We've absolutely looked at our generator protocols, tested the generators, tested battery backups, and ramped up the staffing overnight for this weather event. Yeah. Tyler?
So yesterday, DP Director April Bingham said that this crisis was caused by a simple weather-related power outage. But as you know, power outages happen all across the country all the time, and whole cities don't completely lose their water. And this is why we have redundancy systems in place, right? And so last week, April sent a letter to the EPA and said redundancy is a key feature of our system, ensuring that critical services remain uninterrupted despite the temporary unavailability of certain assets. A couple days later, that whole system failed, and now we were in a crisis. What is your reaction to that, and do you stand by the fact that this is just a simple weather outage issue?
Well, I think the weather outage, I don't even know how to repeat that question, but I'll answer it to my best of my ability. So the weather clearly caused the primary issue. The thing I do understand is that the UPS battery backup, and I'm not exactly sure what that stands for, but the battery backup system didn't last as long as it needed to. And so we did have a failure of that battery backup that led to the valves in the system not opening up and water backing up into the plant. So that's what I do know. I think this is why we're testing our battery backups now. It's why we're testing our generator backups. And I agree, I think at least what I heard about that statement, that redundancy is a key feature. And in this particular case, the power outage and then the failure of our battery backup system have led to the situation that we're at. I imagine again, we're going to do a really rigorous review, see if there's other pieces of it that we need to build for future resiliency.
But as you do that, if you find that there are leadership or management failures, personnel failures, they didn't do what they were supposed to do, are you going to hold those people accountable?
That's the job, right? We need to make sure that we've got the right protocols in place, the right people in place, the right systems in place to provide the basic services that our city needs. So absolutely.
And why isn't Ms. Bingham here to answer questions?
She's at the plant today. I thought that I had a good sense of what we needed. We were really focused on getting this testing protocol done and lifting the boiled water advisory. But she'll be available in the future.
Okay. Next question.
We've spoken to several people who have been upset, per se, by the city's response to this catastrophe. It's kind of a twofold thing. Upset that it seems the water sites were open way less than the surrounding areas. You have a smaller window to get your water, number one, and two, they've talked about what seems to be a delay in the National Guard. Are you all calling the National Guard to help? What's your response to both of those things, that shorter window and it seeming like the National Guard isn't here based on you all's call to help as much as they can?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm happy to address it. So thank you for those questions. So I think the thing to note is that there are a lot of different dynamics when you're trying to get a product out to individuals in need. And I want to be very clear. When we became aware of this incident, we immediately started deploying water. But first, what we did was, before we launched and announced those citywide sites, remember, we are actively focusing on our priority sites, and those are going to be residents with special needs. And so we started those operations before we then expanded to the citywide water distribution. So again, running along two tracks. So as early as actually Monday evening, we were focusing on getting water out to our residents in those specialty populations. So that started, and then Tuesday morning, again, aware of the incident, made public aware just Monday. Within less than 12 hours, because I do want you to kind of be mindful of that time frame, by Monday morning we were distributing water. You have to understand, we are not only procuring water, which means we have to identify the need, we have to procure it, it has to get here. It has to get to warehouses where we can offload it. We still had weather conditions as well. So you have icy roads. So you have to make sure that the product is able to not only get here, but get here safely without incident of those drivers, our staff, and without losing product. So all of those things are critical. In fact, what we have heard has been that our residents are very pleased. They understand, because again, there are a lot of different components to this. Now, the other challenge is, again, we are navigating incidents not only with our surrounding jurisdictions across the Commonwealth, but across our nation. So the product type that's coming in is also changing. One particular product may come in one particular type of packaging. That takes a certain amount of time to offload. A different product type may come in a different type of packaging that we're able to move faster. So we don't know that exact product until we've already purchased and it's arriving to us. So then we're having to pivot very quickly to get it out to the sites as quickly. Our ask is that our residents continue to work with us and know that if there is for some reason they are unable to get it at a distribution site, if they are high need, contact 311. Those are smaller scale distributions, and again, we're working closely with the Richmond Police Department, and we will continue those distributions again tomorrow. But again, for context, to go back to numbers, more than 180,000 liters distributed to our residents over the course of 2 days and counting.
Speak to the National Guard portion of it, too.
Absolutely, I'm happy to. So we are in close communication with the state regarding that potential activation. At this time, we have not needed to do that activation. The water is coming in. It is a matter of it just coming in and us being able to get it out to the sites. At this time, we have the people, we have the trucks. The only thing that the delay is that's causing delay right now is just the water coming in. We may come in, we may get, let's say, 19 pallets of water, then it's depleted. Then we're getting that next round. So sometimes, depending on where those trucks are coming from, there may be gaps in time, but we're doing our best to communicate to residents in real time on the ground as quickly as possible. If and when we do decide to activate the National Guard, that information and news will come directly from the mayor.
Don't you think that
Next
was
question. Next question.
My question's for Mayor Abdullah. Hey, thank you for the good news about the water pressure. I know people are going to be very excited about that, but I know at the same time people are frustrated just that this situation even happens to begin with, and they lost trust, they want to see change. Do you have confidence in April Bingham moving forward to lead DPW and to manage this crisis?
Yeah, I've been absolutely impressed with April's attentiveness and response. Again, I'm a week into this job, just getting to know everybody, know the operation. And so, once we do our after-action review, once we understand exactly what happened, that'll bring a lot to light about, how much of this was system failure, how much of this were process failures. And again, I am absolutely committed to identifying what do we need to do to prevent this from happening again.
Next question.
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, my question is, what are the estimated number of people in households that are without power at the peak, and how many of them can you name in our respective areas?
Oh, I do not know the answer to that. I mean, at some point, without power, you said?
Yes, without power, yes.
The highest number I heard was 1,600 outages, and that was at some point kind of mid-morning on Monday. I'd need to check with Dominion to see if that was actually the peak or not.
When there will be an update on this, and when we can find out that information?
And sorry, is the question like how many people are out of power right now?
Yes.
I'll have to follow with Dominion on that. I don't actually know. Do you have any idea?
I don't.
mean, yeah.
Sabrina?
I know there's a lot we don't know yet, but there are experts who say a power outage shouldn't have led to the plant flooding. And so I'm curious, what have you learned about that in recent days, and what are you doing outside of stopping and surveillance to make sure that doesn't happen again as the city faces, 3 to 4 inches of snow?
Yeah, as I said earlier, the power outage combined with the failure of the battery backup is ultimately what led to the flooding. And so we really need to look at, do we have a long enough battery backup? Are there other communication issues? Because remember, the IT system, the computer brain, is also part of what contributed to this, right? It came when power went out, the IT system went down, and then we had real issues getting that to come back online and connect with the servers, and ultimately that led to the valves not opening. So I think that's some of what we've learned in this early diagnostic process. And then in addition to the monitoring, we're testing those battery backups, testing that generator backup, and then making sure we have redundant people and equipment on site through the duration of this winter event.
Next question.
As people dealt with the outage this week, they also received text messages to pay their DPU water bill. What is the plan for the January bill? How are people going to be credited for this outage in their next bill cycle?
We are going to postpone payments and fines, is that right? And I don't have all the details. We will put that out on our website and on our social media shortly, but we made that decision yesterday as a city, so more to come on that. Yeah.
Brandon?
How many people were at the plant Monday morning when this situation began?
I don't know the answer to that. When I first heard about this was right afternoon. It was the afternoon of Monday. We had our first pulled together meeting at City Hall. So I don't know the details of how many people were actually on site at the plant.
Can you say with certainty there was at least someone there keeping an eye on things?
At the plant?
At the plant.
I can't say that with certainty, but I would be shocked if we didn't have people at the plant, right? I think there's always somebody at the plant. It's a 24/7 operation. It's always staffed. So I wasn't there, but it would absolutely shock me if we did not have somebody at the
To
plant.
follow up on Melissa's question, you can't say whether the generators failed or whether someone just didn't turn them on.
That's right. I don't know the answer to that, Graham.
Okay, on the end.
Yeah, Charlotte with Virginia Mercury, usually covering state stuff, so this is more of a state-focused question. Yesterday, you were talking about like the aging infrastructure, and that may have played some of the role in all of this, which clearly we'll learn more later. Is there any kind of estimate on how much Richmond may ask the General Assembly going forward?
Yeah, we have not gotten there at all. We're starting to work on both requests, both from the General Assembly, and then also figuring out what funding opportunities may be available at the federal level as well. We know that it is going to take, for our combined sewer overflow, stormwater overflow system. I mean, there's lots of infrastructure issues, but we will certainly, springboard off of this event as just a more urgent cry for, hey, we're an old city, we have aging infrastructure, we need to invest in it.
Can you say
Thanks,
exactly?
everybody.
Can you say exactly?
Thanks, everybody.
when
Thanks,
on Monday
everybody.
you learned of this? You said it was in the afternoon.
1 p.m.
So you weren't told in the morning when the power went out that there was an issue?
We had a brief conversation just as in a morning check-in. Hey, we may be having some power outages, power issues, and we're actively assessing it. And then 1 o'clock, I was part of a meeting
Thanks,
where.
They didn't tell you the plant
Thanks,
was
everybody.
failing in
Yeah.
the morning?
Have you,
No.
no,
Thanks,
Ms.
everybody.
Ingram, whether
Thanks,
someone
everybody.
was on site to turn on the generator? Are you gonna ask that?
Sure.